I'm recording tonight because, all things are going on right now. We have some crazy, crazy stuff coming on that we just have to kind of deal with. How are y'all doing right now, given everything that's gone on in the past week?
Doing all right.
Yep, doing all right.
Yep, doing okay.
Trying to stay well.
I tell you, this is a very interesting time, and so hopefully we'll survive it and not be in terrible shape. So I'm just taking a look here real quick. Tamara, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just looking. Let's see. Kelly, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and Anna, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes, I can hear you.
okay, all right. Peyton, can you hear me?
Yes,
sir.
Okay, all right. Irene, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and Kimberly, you got me?
Kimberly Estep?
Or well, I know I heard you, Kimberly Estep, so I know you're there. Kimberly Johnson, can you hear me? Kimberly Johnson? Okay, all right. Hopefully we won't have any problems with everything going on. Let me just start off by saying this so that you all kind of know where I am about how these things have taken place in the past week. Just to give you an idea of everything that's gone on. Matter of fact, last Thursday night, the university closed seated classes. So everything we do is going to be online. We are not going to miss anything. I'm going to get you through this because number one, I want you to finish this course. And number two, I don't want you to be held up when we get everything squared away with this medical issue. I don't want anybody held up with their jobs or anything else. So we're going to get through this, okay? Now, if something happens and we have to amend the syllabus and we have to do some things to work our way through it, just relax. We're going to get through it. I remember fall of 2018 when we had Hurricane Florence. And to give you an idea, we were on the 5-week system then instead of this 8-week system. And to give you an idea, I didn't have any internet access. So I taught class in the McDonald's. I taught class in my pastor's office at the church. I taught class sitting at somebody else's dining room table because of the fact that I didn't have internet access for weeks. So that being said, we're going to work out what we've got to do to get through this, okay? So just remember, I know you got a lot on your mind. You got a lot, riding on you on top of everything else. And if you're like any other educator, you have kids who are wanting to know what's going on, okay? And your own children, and you're trying to keep things as normal as you can, as well as with your own students. So with that being said, we're going to get to see some interesting things about teacher leadership, though, in this 8-week period. And I'm going to tell you what's going to be interesting is this. How many of you all are currently either in a child care center or you're in a K-12 setting? If you're already working in a K-12 setting or you're in a child care center. Okay.
I am too. Child care center.
Child care.
I am.
Let me ask y'all, how have things changed in the past week? What are the things that y'all are quickly putting into place right now?
So for me and my students, sorry about that. For me and my students, what we've done is we have pretty strict guidelines down in Duplin County. No new information is going out these next 2 weeks. But what I'm doing with my kids is we have resources that the county has released that they can use at home. And then I'm doing a daily read aloud because I teach kindergarten, as well as I'm doing review sessions for about 15-20 minutes with each of them daily, the ones who want it.
Well, one of the things that's going to be interesting, and we've been using here at UMO, we've been using Zoom and we've been using digital instruction really pretty much since about 2012. So we're pretty good at it. But one of the things that is so funny, my wife teaches at Croatan High School, and they got called in on Monday morning, and the first thing they were told was they were told to set up to go to a totally digital platform. So with that being said, this is going to be new ground for them. So when you talk about from a leadership standpoint, this is a very big opportunity for educators to prove that they're leaders. Because let me point something out to you. A week ago, we had no idea that we were going to go from one end of the state to the other with digital instruction. And in a week's time, classroom teachers sat down, figured out how to deliver curriculum, and then got ready to deliver it starting next week. So when you think about that, that's pretty heavy duty when you talk about educational leadership. That is a leadership thing that is really impressive when you look at it. Because let me point something out to you. Nobody trained anybody how to do this. So you think about it, they trained on the fly to figure out how to do this. And you know, those teachers they've been in buildings. When I went with my daughter yesterday, she's a first grader at Bogue Sound Elementary School. When I went with my daughter yesterday to pick up her stuff, it was kind of interesting. What we did was we walked into the school. They didn't let us get past the foyer. She was allowed to go down to the library and check out books. They had her packets ready to go. And then they had directions for what had to happen. They said every morning at 8:30 you need to log on to your class dojo from home and see what the teacher has left for you to do. And it's kind of an interesting thing because you think about it. You know, every individual school in this state has had to come up with a way to educate the children. And I'm sure those of you who are in preschool settings, you all have had to do stuff just as impressive at this point in time too, in a week's time, because you think about it, you know, those children cannot afford to lose 6 or 8 weeks, and it could be 6 or 8 weeks. From what we're hearing, they said it would be through the end of March. Well, I'm going to hazard a guess, y'all, if we get back to school by the end of the spring break, we're going to be lucky. We're going to be very, very lucky, which means we're going to get to see whether or not we can actually make this digital platform work. But the other thing is, I had to laugh because, you know, whenever you look at Facebook, I was laughing where there was this one guy on there, and he said, you know, he said, I'm not doing this homeschool thing very well. He said, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not doing it well. He said, I've already suspended 2 students for fighting, and I've long-term suspended the third, and the teacher has been fired for drinking on the job. So, so that being said, you know, things are, you know, there's some humor in it. And I think one of the things I will just say from your standpoint is this. If you ever wondered whether parents are going to think about what you do as being hard to do, I think by the time this thing is over, there's going to be a whole different feeling about what people think about what educators do in schools. Because you think about it, and I don't know how it is in your counties, but in my county, in Carteret County right now, I noticed today, they were scrambling the school buses to deliver food in every neighborhood. You know, and it was funny because someone said something, said, well, why are they coming in our neighborhood? Everybody in this neighborhood's okay. Nobody's, you know, at risk of not having enough to eat. And I said, the point is, that's not the point. The point is they have to provide access to every neighborhood that their school serves, whether they need it or not. And you know, and it's funny because they've been serving roughly about 11,000 meals a day in Carteret County. So it's been interesting to see how this thing is going. But that being said, we have to talk about ed leadership tonight. So we're going to talk about educational leadership, and tonight we're going to talk a little bit about professional organizations. Now, I will have your reflections back to you before the weekend, so don't worry about that. But also, let me talk for just a minute about the North Carolina Teacher Working in Learning Conditions Survey. Okay, let me put it to you this way. The assignment you have coming up for Sunday night is I want you to take the North Carolina Teacher Working and Learning Conditions Survey, and I want you to choose a school. It could be the school you're working in. It could be the school your kid goes to. It could just be a school in your district. If you're working in a preschool and, you're in a situation where, you're really not connected to the public schools, it might be the school where the kids in your preschool go to kindergarten. But one of the things I want you to look at is this. When you go through this, because I want you to write reflections on the Working and Learning Conditions Survey. Now, let me tell you this. You're not going to find reflections for 2020 yet, okay? You're not going to find that data yet because they're compiling that data right now. And I doubt they're going to be able to get all the data they want to get because of the fact that we've had this interruption in the school year. And let me give you a little background on this survey. This survey is done in the even numbered years, every other year. And it was initially started with the North Carolina Association of Educators. And the reason why it was started was they wanted to get the feeling for what teachers thought about their jobs and what they thought about their schools and resources and things like that, for purposes of being able to lobby lawmakers to provide resources and things like this. Now, they do it every other year, and actually this came in after No Child Left Behind in 2001, okay? Because these surveys had to be done because that was part of what was going on. But since the NCAA was doing it, the state decided to use the NCAA's data instead, so they didn't duplicate it. So, basically what I'll do is when we get done tonight, I'm going to send the link to you for the North Carolina Teacher Working and Learning Conditions Survey. And I would say, like I said, use the 2018 data because that's going to be the most recent data you can use. But the other thing I will tell you is this, and I want everybody to hear this, okay? It's simple to use. When you go to the survey, you click in your county, and then you go right down to the town and the school, and you click in the school, and it gives the data for how those teachers in that school responded, how many of them responded, how many in the county responded, and things like this. Because we're going to do this 3 different ways. Let me tell you how we're going to do this. We're going to do this, first of all, you're going to look at the school to start with, okay? And you're going to look at the results for the school. And then after that, you're going to look at how the school compared to the district, okay? And then, of course, we'll be digging in a little bit further later. But the reason why we're doing this, and there is a method to the madness, so I'm going to share the method with you, okay? The method to the madness is this, is you've got to learn to start taking data apart. So when you get into doing the PPAT, you are able to look at data and create ideas about the demographics of the school so that you can respond. Because one of the things that when you take the PPAT, what happens, what are you doing? Okay, you need to go and let Daddy finish, okay? This is my 7-year-old. This is Avery. And we have a thing for redheads in our house, too. So anyway, Avery, say hi.
Hello.
Hi, Avery.
Hi.
Go downstairs with mommy, okay? Avery, go downstairs with mommy. Okay, go with mommy.
It's like the Jimmy Fallon show last night.
Let me tell you, and I'll just say this, so anybody who's had class with me before,
I love it.
will tell you that Avery makes impromptu visits. Okay? She does. It's kind of
Absolutely.
it's kind of like on Jimmy Kimmel. His friend who who shows up at the beginning of the show. That's kind of how she is. She's,
Hey, it's all right.
which is fine because every once in a while I'll bring her in and I'll ask her questions related to what we're doing. Let me get the door so she doesn't run back. But the one thing, though, I will tell you about, and this is one of the reasons I think I'm really concerned about what's happening right now, is because, I have a child who's in this. So, normalcy is an important thing. We need things back to boring and back to normal, as quick as we can get them back to boring and normal. But when we're talking about this survey, now, like I said, being able to take apart data is a really important part of being a teacher, okay? And one of the things I will tell you on the PPAT, when you take the PPAT, every single task you have to do of the 4 tasks, it starts off with being able to identify the demographics of the school, the demographics of your classroom, what's the makeup, you know, how many, you know, for example, how many kids are on free and reduced lunch, how many kids don't need it, how many kids have learning disabilities, you name it. So that's why we spend a lot of time in this class learning to take apart data, okay? Because I'm going to tell you a little bit about data from my point of view. To me, as a former school administrator and someone who's been collecting data for years, data tells a story, okay? And one of the things I will say about any school you go in is if I go and I ask for a principal to show me the North Carolina report card for that school for how they performed, one of the things you're going to see on the report card, and we'll do a little bit of stuff with that this semester, on the report card is you'll see how many kids are economically disadvantaged, how many kids aren't, you know, what's the reading, what was the reading score for the EOG last year, what was the math score for the EOG, what was the science score for 5th grade, how many books are in the library, everything. And you think, well, why do we need to know that? I will tell you this, one of the things about it is when you start looking at that and you get good at it, you're going to be able to walk into any school in North Carolina and you're going to be able to tell a story to the people in that school that they don't think you know because you know how to look at the data. And I will just tell you this, if you don't think data is important, then, you know, I think that you'll probably think again when we get done with this class, because like I tell people all the time, when you get to where you can take the data apart, you can figure a whole lot out about a class of kids. You can figure out a whole lot about a grade level. You can figure out a whole lot about a lot of things in a school building. And I'll say this, one of the things that you're going to see as we go through this, hopefully, is you're going to see some things that are really interesting. Like, for example, you know, everybody, and I'll say this to a person, what'll be the, you know what the lowest thing probably will be on everybody's school when they start looking at it? How well the administration responds to disciplinary issues. Because I'm going to tell you something, teachers are a hard group. They are a hard group. That's a tough room to work if you're a comedian, I'm telling you. And the reason why I say that is because you send a kid to the office and you expect that principal or assistant principal to take that kid to the back of the schoolyard and kill him with the rest of the class watching. That, you know, that's the way, that's, you know, that's the mindset, you know, take them to the back of the schoolyard, kill them, let them all watch. They won't do it again. And the thing is, you can't do that. And that's an area that it will, without fail, on every survey you look at, I'm going to tell you that's going to be probably one of the lowest things, is how well the administration responds to disciplinary issues. Because I'm going to tell you, I don't care how hard you work at it. As you know, as a principal, I had an old principal tell me one time, he said, the one thing you always lose on is discipline, and you always lose on school buses, because you can't never get the school buses right, and you can't ever get the discipline right. You know, because either the kid's parent will think that you have been too hard on the kid, or the kid or the teacher will think you were too easy on the kid, and said, don't feel bad about it. You just can't do it, you know. But one of the things I will say when you're looking at this stuff is, please remember, your goal as a teacher is what? What's your goal as a teacher? Let's talk about that for just a minute tonight. What's your goal?
For me, I guess because I work with special needs kids, my goal is just to see them succeed. Give them tools that they can use the next year and the years to come.
Okay, using tools for the next year and the years to come. What's your goal? Okay, let's hear from someone else. What is your goal for your students?
I say readiness goals.
Okay,
Let 'em
Greta, you say
be
readiness
ready.
goals. Okay,
Right.
what's your goal for your students? I'm gonna ask someone else. What is your goal for your students?
Prepare them. Like at their age level or higher, developmentally.
Okay, to help them get their age level or higher. Catherine, you were saying something, and then you got.
I was saying prepare them for like the real world, like how to deal with people in a social context instead of, like if they hit you, you hit them back. Like, well, maybe they had a reason to hit you. Figure out why they hit you, and then maybe then you can hit them.
Okay, maybe to help them with the real world thing. Kimberly Easton, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, just to help them to learn.
Okay. Helping
Just
them, helping them
just
learn how. Okay.
just teaching them and hoping that they're learning from what you're teaching them.
Okay. Hoping that they're learning how to learn. Okay. And and education really is that. Can we teach a kid to learn how to learn? Tamara, what were you saying? Tamara?
For me, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. For me, I work with the pre-K students, and my thing that I really want them to get to learn is at least learn how to spell, name, and count. Just help them out with the kindergarten. So just
Okay.
ready.
Okay. You're talking about readiness skills, Kimberly.
Yeah.
I just was gonna say, like, I'm a pre-K teacher too. I know some of us, a few of us are in pre-K. I was gonna say, really, what's most important that I'm hearing from kindergarten teachers is not just here. I worked in early Head Start before and in Head Start, and I just know that having that social emotional component, that's really what's so important. I need that kindergarten teacher. She needs our kids to be patient, be able to kind of self-regulate a little bit, need to be able to work together as a group, need to be able to listen and interact with peers in a positive way. And I feel like kids these days, it's a little complicated. Their social emotional skills are a little different. So I feel like they need a lot of help from us, a lot of positive interactions, a lot of modeling and coaching in that area. So I really want my kids to be prepared socially and emotionally for kindergarten.
Okay. And that makes sense. You all are hitting at what I was going at, but y'all didn't quite get there, but you'll get there. But I'm gonna kind of drop a little hint on with you.
Cognitive development.
Okay. The day my daughter started kindergarten, and I went to the first open house, and I'll tell you, I went to an open house as a school principal. Okay. And I went kind of incognito. I wore shorts and a t-shirt and a pair of topsiders. I did not wear a shirt and a tie because I didn't have anything to do with that open house at that particular school, and was glad I didn't, because I was there to be daddy. I wasn't there to be a school administrator. Well, but the one thing that crossed my mind going in there was, my job is not to be dad of a kindergartner here. My job is to be dad of a kid who's going to walk across the stage in 13 years, across the stage at high school graduation. And when we think about our job as classroom leaders and educational leaders, that's our job. Our job, we may be at the very beginning of it. We may be in the middle grades when everything hits and puberty's making everything not go right. We may be in the high school years where they're trying to pass senior English and they don't know whether they're going to get there. But every one of us have a job, and that job is to make sure that that child has every possible opportunity to get across that stage at the time they're supposed to graduate from high school. And as educational leaders, as classroom leaders, as teacher leaders, that's our job. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about professional organizations tonight, a little bit, because I think this is important. How many of you all participate in, say, we call them PLCs now, but we used to call them team meetings, grade level meetings, school improvement meetings. How many of y'all participate in PLCs in your school settings now?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, what are PLCs like? Y'all share a little bit about how your PLCs work in your schools where y'all work.
Well, I work for a preschool setting, Head Start, and basically they we used to have them, but they cut them out for some reason. The meetings were interesting because you got to get the point of view of other people, of how they felt about certain situations. that you encounter, like with the kids and stuff like that. So it was very informative. It gave other people resources of how they deal with different behavior problems within their classroom and stuff like that. So it kind of was like a little powwow meeting, but it was a learning process too.
Okay, so it was a situation where you all had the opportunity to. We used to call it benchmarking, where you would get together and y'all could benchmark off each other and pick up tips in the trade and things like that. Share information. How many of y'all have ever, when you were doing PLCs or you were doing team meetings or what have you, how many of you all ever collaboratively wrote lesson plans during those meetings? Okay, Irene, what was that like in your PLC?
With me being a behavior support, I had to do, and I taught social skill instruction. So I collaborated with the behavior specialist and some of my intervention team members. So we used a curriculum like zones and regulations. So I had to create a lesson plan to teach a group of kids out of like 2 out of the 14 schools that I cover. So it was pretty good but different because the kids were different ages. So say for example, if I was at one of the elementary schools on the other side of what I call the water, I had a third grader, a fifth grader, seventh and eighth grader all in the same group. So it got pretty intense sometimes. And that way I had to split them apart, and I still had to do separate lessons for that age, because sometimes a third grader wasn't able to do a lesson that one of the eighth graders could do. So even though it was still all social instruction, I had to break it down for that child's grade level.
Okay, so but when you were planning, you also got to get information from teachers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to get information from teachers and how that child, how their what cognitive level that they were on, and how they could comprehend certain information. So and also and how they interacted with other students, if there was any interaction.
Okay. So yours was primarily behavioral, but you did work across the lines with other teachers in dealing with these children.
Yes.
So PLCs are probably one of the best ways as teacher leaders to share. And I'm going to tell you, PLCs are kind of like what we do here, okay? When we're sitting here and we're talking about things and you all are sharing insights on things you do, that's basically a PLC. But one of the things that I think is really important to talk about tonight, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time, is professional organizations. How many of you have joined the North Carolina Association of Educators? Anybody join the NCAE?
I have.
Okay. Well, NCAE is a good collective bargaining organization. And basically what I mean is they're the ones who will talk to your lawmakers about, resources and pay increases and things like that. They're kind of, in North Carolina, we don't really have unions, but they serve that purpose. And as teacher leaders, I would tell you this, that's one of the best organizations to join because there's so many things that are done for children. I mean, let's just say this, you are in a classroom and you have a child who needs a pair of glasses and they don't have them. Well, the NCAE has an organization called the Foundation for Public School Children. They will feed a child. They will put clothes on a child's back. They will take a child to the doctor if they've got to go. They will buy glasses for a child. I mean, I know of one situation where the Foundation for Public School Children with the NCAE bought insulin for a child who was diabetic, okay? They do all kinds of stuff. And not that you're just trying to find stuff for students, but they provide a lot of things, but they also provide a lot of curriculum support too. The NCAE and the NEA do that. Now there are other organizations. Anybody ever heard of the National Association of Elementary School Personnel? Have y'all ever heard of that one, NAESP? Okay, that's a good one for organization because of the fact that, if you're working with elementary school, they also have one for middle school and high school. There's also one I like to tell people about, particularly you guys starting, because people don't think about it. But while you're students, you guys can join some of these organizations considerably cheaper than you can after you get out. Okay. There's one that I like very, very much, and it's called the ASCD, the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. And they do a lot of work on helping teachers learn how to teach better. I mean, they have a lot of curriculum support stuff. They have a website that you can go to and you can pull lesson plans from, journals, you name it. It's all there. And the reason why I tell you about organizations like these is because right now, early on in your career, sometimes even in a school, the principal won't quite know where to go get something. There may not be somebody in the district office who knows where to go get something. Your teacher partner might not know where to go get something, and you might just have to throw out a lifeline somewhere to see if you can get a response back from someone. And these organizations are great for providing support as far as instructional support, answering questions, behavioral support, you name it. One of my favorite people to go to, and I'm going to send some stuff out to you all. Matter of fact, there are a few things on the syllabus that I've just added because I think they're good. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Spencer Kagan Cooperative Learning. Spencer Kagan has an online free thing to go to that he will send you things about how to do cooperative learning with students regardless of their age, because there's one of the things that I will tell you when you talk about cooperative learning in a classroom, a lot of people confuse cooperative learning where kids are working towards an objective with group work. And group work and cooperative learning are two different things. Group work, the kid who does all the work ends up frustrated because the other three kids fool around in the group, okay? Whereas cooperative learning, everybody has a task and they've got to master the task so the whole group's task comes together. But talking about these things, talking about PLCs, your PLCs are really, really vital in your school. And if you've got a principal that you work for, or even an assistant principal that you work for that has a mindset for doing PLCs and they're wanting to do PLCs and they're wanting to share with you, this is a great opportunity for you to grow and develop as you move along into your professional life here. Now, let me ask you this real quick. Let's go and ask just one question real quick about this assignment. How many of you are still confused a little bit about the assignment for Sunday night? Okay, Brittany. Okay, what can I help you with, Brittany? We'll start with you first.
You you kind of answered one of the questions when you were saying that you're gonna put the link up. I kind of already thought the link was up there. I went up there on the website today trying to see if I could search it, at least get some type of idea, before I could do the paper, but I didn't see anything up there. So now I know that you're gonna send us a link so we can click on it and just do you said the county, enter the county and then the school, and it should pull up the report.
And it'll pull up the report. It'll come right up. Now, one of the things, you said there was one question. What about the second question? Because you said you had two questions.
Oh, the second question would be, how long does the reflection paper have to be?
Okay, let's talk about length. And I'm going to talk about length tonight, and then I'm not going to talk about length anymore.
I think you did it last week, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, now I got you. I know exactly what you said about length now.
folks who have had classes with me before know this. I want to see quality work, okay? Quality work does, you know, and I laugh about this. One of my favorite, and I'm a big Charlie Brown fan. One of my favorite Charlie Brown movies is You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Okay, and there's a part in there about writing the book report, and he's starting to sing about how bad it is to have to write this book report, and so he's written 2 sentences, and then after he gets through the first part, it was a very, 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 very good book. Okay, and they're just filling up space with the word very. Okay,
I'm trying to figure out how to say something.
the reason why I don't, and I'm going to tell you this is from the point of view of someone who was an English teacher. I do not believe that you need to give me 15 pages where 4 or 5 of them were really good, and then you padded 10 more pages because you didn't think it was long enough, okay? Because you don't have time for that, and I don't have time for that. We both don't have time for that. So, you know, put the quality into what you're writing and go from there. Now, one of the things I will tell you about this, and this will help you a little bit, is they have the data broken down into little subsections, you know, and then they have like 7 or 8 questions under one subsection, and then the responses. If you would like to break yours down into subsections and write it in chunks, make it easier for you,
Okay.
I am perfectly happy with you doing that, okay? Because I don't believe this needs to be something that you are so miserable doing that by the time you turn it in, you haven't learned anything, because I made it so frustrating, and I said I was going to count off for 3 misspelled words, and if you didn't document everything, I was going to knock 20 more points off or whatever. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, I want to see you really dig in. Okay, if you really dig in and you have a couple of mechanical things that don't look right, I'm not going to beat you up for them. Now, I may make a note on there, hey, you might want to clean this up next time you turn something in, but I'm not going to beat you up for it, okay? Because you don't have time for that, all right? And on top of that, like I said last week, you guys got families, you got jobs, you got a major pandemic on your hands right now on top of everything else. You don't have time to worry about some of this stuff, okay? So with that being said, you know, just do your very best, okay? Put your best work into it. And let me just tell you a little bit about grading. I didn't talk about this last week much, but let me tell you a little bit about grading on my standpoint, okay? You all are older students. Most of you are coming back to school after some time. Am I right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. And some of the things that someone who would be 18 or 19 years old they'd know how to do, because they hadn't had that much time separated from the time when they were in high school till now, is a little bit different than you all coming back and having to get back in the swing of it, okay? And I'm just going to tell you, you're bringing a variety of experiences to that classroom, to those kids, okay? And because you're bringing those experiences, you may have a little problem with putting the thing together to make it look the way you need it to look, and we can work on that. I'm going to tell you, I'm not someone who's going to beat you up on everything that doesn't look perfect. Now, if you need to fix something, I'm going to tell you to fix it, all right? But the thing is, I'm not going to beat you up on this, because I want you to get in the habit of trying your very best to do your best work, okay? I don't want to beat you up for doing your best work. And but anyway, like I said, I want you know, I want you to look at this stuff, and like I said, it's broken into subsections, and if you wish to break yours into subsections to make it easier for you to manage, break it into subsections, okay?
So,
Because,
Mr. Gainey, you mean
yes,
breaking up the actual survey and discussing the data from a survey in subsections?
the survey's broken into sections, okay? It's
Okay,
broken into sections, like, for example, there might be one on resources. There might
okay,
be one on administrative
Time
laws,
for
discipline.
future.
There might be one on teachers have time to plan, you know,
Right.
and you might want to break it into little chunks, and you just put a little subheading, and then you write about that part. Now, let me
okay,
go ahead and give you a little hint about how to look at data real quick. Because
okay.
first of all, once you get in it, you're going to start to eventually start seeing trends. My thing is this, and I've always told people this when I was a school administrator, anything below 70% is something that you need to look at. You need to be aware of it, and you need to try to address it. Okay, I'm really big on that. If it's below 70%, you're probably going to need to mention it when you see it. All right. Now, the reason why I say that is this, is because everybody's not going to see everything in a perfect light. But if less than half the people in a school building think that that's a good idea, then it's probably not a good idea, and you're probably not going to just ignore that. Okay, so that's why I'm telling you, start thinking about it a little bit, because one of the things that will happen, and how many of you, when you look at your students' work, like if you're doing, we did M class for a long time, and now we're doing iStation, when, or you're collecting sight words if you're in a pre-K program, or you're looking at readiness skills and you're doing a check sheet. How many of you have noticed, like, for example, you're sitting there with a child and you've done the baseline in the fall and you're doing the mid-year, and say, for example, you notice that the same thing that you saw in the fall, you're still seeing? That's a trend. And when you're looking at trends, you're looking for trends. Are there things that are continuing to show up? Or are there things that are happening that need to be addressed? Okay. For example, like with my little girl, I'm gonna use Avery, because I love to talk about my little girl. She's great, and I think she's funny, but she will drive you crazy. Anyway, but long story short, one of the things I notice about my little girl is this. Okay. My little girl at 7 years old still has to be told to pick up all the Barbie shoes and all the Barbie clothes, because we have a puppy at our house. Okay. And Angie, the puppy, loves Barbie shoes. And she doesn't like it. I have to remind her all the time. And so that's a trend. What can you work on so that dad doesn't get frustrated with you? Pick up the Barbie shoes. Okay? Because the puppy's going to come through, and the puppy's going to find the shoes and chew them up. And then you're going to be upset. And daddy cannot afford to keep buying Barbie shoes. Okay? Daddy has a hard enough time buying your shoes. He doesn't need to have to buy Barbie shoes too. And the other thing about that is this: before the puppy showed up, Barbie's high heels, the ones she wore with the astronaut suit when she went to the moon, will tear up a vacuum cleaner some kind of bad. And Barbie's shoes will destroy the vacuum cleaner. I have taken the vacuum cleaner apart so many times to get Barbie's shoes out of the vacuum cleaner. Okay, but the reason why I'm saying this, and the reason why I want you all to start looking at trends, is that that's where you start being able, when I said data tells a story, that's where you're able to tell a story about what your kids are learning. Okay. For example, if I have a list of sight words and they're supposed to be through the first 30 of them by Christmas, and and let's just say that your class gets through the first 30 of them by Thanksgiving, the trend data is showing me your class is ahead of the group when they're getting ready to start learning how to read. They're ahead of the curve. Okay. Or when you're looking at iStation and you're looking at our M class, I used to love M class because you used to look at first sound fluency and nonsense word fluency and all those things. You're looking at the sounds and you're looking at the things they're doing. And when they're starting to master those sounds, they're starting to master those pre-reading skills that are going to help them jump way up the line very quickly. And, so that being said, that's why I want you to really think about the data. Okay. Think about the data, look at the data, look what it tells you to do. Now, I have nowhere to go between now and Sunday night at midnight. Okay. I literally have nowhere to go. So with that being said, if you have a problem with getting your stuff done, or you just have a question, or you're just so bored you don't have anybody to talk to because your kids have pulled the last nerve you've got, and you just stepped outside on the porch and you want to call somebody, call me. It's fine. All right. I'm okay with that. But look, this thing is serious. Okay. And I want you all to be very careful. And I want y'all to take care of yourselves, take care of your families, take care of each other, because this is very serious. I don't want to see, things on the news and so forth, where people have not done what they were supposed to do. And so that being said, just, please, please take care of yourselves. All right.
Mr. Gamey, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I had one more question.
Sure.
So I see one assignment to turn in, but I see do other people see this other stuff that's on for week 2?
Like who's who?
Like education.
Right.
Yeah, who's
Okay.
who assigned it? Do we need
Okay.
to do that as well?
All right. Look, with the educational who's who, it's not due to like week 5. I
Yeah,
went
it
ahead
doesn't
and put it on there because you got to look for, you have to look for those folks.
Uh-huh.
And
it says
you
due
do a few of them
February.
all
Okay.
along. It makes it so much easier when it's time to turn it in.
Okay.
All right,
Due
that's the
week
only
5.
reason why it's there early, because anytime something's due, and I'll tell you, the easiest way to pick out on the syllabus where something's due is if you see the little hand that looks like this and the paper is looking like this in the hand, you got to turn it in, okay?
Okay.
If you don't see the little hand, it's not due yet, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now that being said, I'll just say this. Anytime you have an assignment like that, and this is one that I want you to know who these people are in relation to education, because you're going to need to know, because these are the people who the theories that you teach from are based on. Okay. So that being said, I gave it to you early so that you had a couple of weeks you could work on it, a little bit at a time, because it's easier to do 6 or 7 of them at a time than it is to sit down the night before it's due and try to come up with all of them. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Does that make you feel better, Kimberly?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I just was wondering.
Kimberly, just relax. This is your first time with me, but trust me, there's a method to the madness. Just bear with me. There's a method to the madness, and it will make sense. Trust me, it will make sense when it's all said and done.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Like I said, you all take care of yourselves. Okay, we don't know what this thing is going to be like, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. But y'all take care of yourselves, okay? Because we'll be up every Thursday evening, and as far as that's concerned, just if you need me, you have my cell number. You can call me. You can shoot me an email. I usually tend to check my email a couple times a day. So, we'll get through this, all right? But you all have a good evening. Y'all be careful, okay? And I'm looking forward to seeing your stuff on Sunday evening, all right?
Okay. All right.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.